Welcome to American Education FM, everybody. I'm Dr. Sean Brooks.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome. Okay. First of all, I'll start with this. There's a lot of indication here this week, in particular on Monday, starting Monday and well into Tuesday, Wednesday, et cetera, that there might be a lot of political commotion going on. There's a lot of, I'd put it this way, decoding of particular posts, interesting Trump tweets, a number of different things, even dating back to some Q posts. And basically, again, just an indication that there's going to be something occurring this particular week. Again, I don't mean to date fag in any way, but I'm just letting you know that on a lot of these boards, there's a lot of that discussion. There certainly was on Saturday morning, sort of indicating again that there's going to be some big political movements here, whether it be declassification of particular stories or information or other things of that nature. Either way, just keep an eye out for that potentially. Again, if I had to take a guess, I would say it'd be something rather obvious that almost everybody would be able to pick up on and certainly move that information around rather freely. So we'll see. Either way, I've always found this interesting regarding Donald Trump's tweets, many of which, of course, when he was president of the United States were coded in a lot of ways. And this was something that not everybody picked up on, but a great deal of people picked up on it. The misspellings, the capitalizations where there didn't need to be, missing letters, things of that nature. And it's really not something that's ever really gone away. It's something that he has pretty much done consistently, not to mention, I don't think a single person to this day can say that they've actually seen Donald Trump make a social media post on his own of any kind. In fact, if memory serves, it's been disclosed in actual legal depositions that numerous individuals are responsible for his posts and that they are not accidental, that they're very coordinated and they are very controlled to an extent. And again, even when a particular post goes out that seemingly doesn't make any sense, it is very intentional and there is a meaning behind it. So, very recently, within the last day or so, he put out a particular truth post with just the hashtag, and that was it. Again, this would have been something in the past that the mainstream media would have picked up on. They would have looked at that and said, what is he doing? What is that post? That doesn't mean anything. And then, of course, people who decode a number of different things and look up multiple definitions came across the fact that the hashtag sign also means, or the number sign or the pound sign, also means checkmate in chess, or is equivalent to checkmate in chess. So again, with that coming before this coming week, that had a lot of people talking online as to what it meant and what might potentially happen. So again, I'm putting that out there just to let people know that his posts are not accidental. And I think it's not only very intentional, and this has been proven to be the case, but there's far more going on here than what certainly the media is ever going to let on to. And basically, with that said, I have two pieces of audio here out of the gate that I want to play. I put these at the beginning of the video portion of the war videos after the memes all ended. But I wanted to play him here so that you can hear his voice specifically. Donald Trump in 2020, of course, won the 2020 election, and many people believe that he didn't, when in fact he did. And as I've stated on the show here, he had a legal obligation to monitor the election and make sure that fraud was either not taking place, or if it was, to document said fraud, because again, this is his legal obligation. He took an oath to serve and protect, and this has to be done by the book. So this first audio that you're going to hear is him in the White House describing the voter fraud and what happened the night of the election. And then I'm going to cut in and then just say a couple of things, and then I'll play the second piece of audio. And the second piece of audio came from a rather famous speech of his on November 15th in 2022, where he was at Mar-a-Lago, and he openly stated again that he was going to quote-unquote run for president of the United States. But what he also said was, in that speech, is that there had to be a pause, that they had to walk away, and he specifically uses the word pause, that there had to be a pause so that people could see how bad things would actually get. Again, people have to understand this entire process, and all these years that this has been going on here has been a waking up process. It's been a deprogramming agenda and a deprogramming psychological operation, which again is a good thing. And people are being deprogrammed. Unfortunately, there are endless people who are still dead asleep, regardless of any particular story that comes out or what have you, but getting the asleep people to wrap their heads around the fact that they've been manipulated their entire lives is a tough pill to swallow, even today. But either way, I just think that these two particular pieces of audio prove that, of course, he had a legal obligation to hand this over to the military, engage in the Insurrection Act and sign the Insurrection Act, and then, of course, step aside and just let the military gather the information. And again, it's, as he even states, it's not the TV military. It's not the TV generals. He's openly stated this time and time again. It's not those people who are actually engaged in this operation. Most of the people involved in this operation would be individuals that you would never even see, let alone know of. So that's not my imagination. I mean, if you've learned his communications over the years and you've learned the way that he talks to individuals and, of course, the speeches he gives and the underhanded comments that he makes, and you pay attention to those, there's a lot of depth in those comments. They're not accidental. So, again, I'm going to play these two clips here. I'll play the first one first, and then, of course, I'll dive in, and then I'll play the second one, which occurred 2 years later. So here's this first clip again from after the 2020 election, still in 2020, in 3, 2, 1.
Leading by a lot to losing by a little. And that's right here. That's at 3:42 in the morning. That's Wisconsin. A terrible thing. Terrible, terrible thing. But we will have far more, many times more, than the 20,000 votes needed to overturn the state. If we are right about the fraud, Joe Biden can't be president. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of votes. We're talking about numbers like nobody has ever seen before. Just as an example, in certain states, we'll be down by, let's say, 7,000 votes. But we'll find later on 20,000, 50,000, 100,000, 200,000 discrepancies or fraudulent votes. And that includes votes that went through when they were not allowed to be seen by Republican poll watchers because the poll watchers were locked out of the building. Or people that innocently came to vote on November 3rd, who were all excited about their vote. They were happy. They were proud to be citizens of the United States of America.
Okay, that's the end of the first clip. Again, if there was voter fraud, he had a legal obligation to discuss it. Why would he not know that there was voter fraud when he was the sitting president of the United States? It's also been stated, of course, that back in 2020, he was in a skiff. People said he was in a skiff. He was watching these votes come in, but he was also watching communication and transportation of American votes go to foreign countries and then come back. He had a complete legal obligation to tell the American public this. Again, if there was no voter fraud, why on earth would a sitting president of the United States engage in a presentation like that, let alone multiple presentations, and then have numerous individuals all across the country give all of the presentations that they gave, and all of the stages that they were on, and the PowerPoint presentations and the data tracking and all of it? Why would they be doing that if it was all fraudulent? If they were somehow making it up on their own? It's completely ridiculous. They wouldn't go to that effort to just make up voter fraud if there was no voter fraud. But again, my point here is rather simple and straightforward, and I'm not the only one who knows this, is that he has a legal obligation to hand things over to the military when domestic and foreign individuals have conspired with one another to steal an election. For endless reasons, many of which, of course, we're watching right now and have been watching over the last 4 years. So again, I don't think that there's any doubting that the military is in control of this 100%. Again, I don't know what's going to happen before or on election day here with whatever it is, 50 some odd days left. But it's going to be interesting, whatever it is. Now, let me play this second clip again. This was from November of 2022. It was a speech that a lot of people were looking forward to. They were basically wanting him to say, I am the president of the United States. Joe Biden isn't, and I am, and I'm back, and all this other stuff. But again, there's an operation going on, and people have to understand that he has a role to play in this too, that being, of course, Donald Trump and the people around him. Again, they're not letting anything slip necessarily, but again, if you listen closely to what he says, he's telling you what's actually happening. And then he sort of covers it up with a question and says, we had to take a pause if that's even a thing, if that's even real. Well, why would he say it in the first place? Again, he knows what's going on here. So give this very quick little snippet from his speech a quick listen here in 3, 2, 1.
And one of the beautiful things of the pause, if there is such a thing as a beautiful thing, one of the important factors of the pause is that we see how bad they've done. So we will be able to do it properly, and it will be much easier. Everybody will agree with us because everybody sees what a bad job has been done during this 2-year period, and it will be a 4-year period. Everybody sees that. It will be much easier for us to do what has to be done.
Again, I think it's pretty clear. And he's telling people again what they're doing, why it has to be this way, why they're catching him. As I've stated before, and as numerous people have stated, of course, you give the enemy enough rope, they'll take it. You give them enough slack, they'll hang themselves with it. Look what's happened over the last 2 years since that speech. 2 years ago in Mar-a-Lago. More and more people, yes, I should say this, of course it's obvious that people's lives have gotten harder. And more people have lost their lives, and terrible things have happened. There is no doubt about that, but it's also war, so people should expect that. And I understand, again, people openly say, myself included, that, you're watching a movie, and that this is a movie. It's only a movie in that it's controlled to a great extent. There are aspects of this that are, in fact, controlled by good guys. There are, however, very real things that are still taking place on a global stage, so to speak, that are very evil among very evil people and evil groups, but also at the local level as well. Again, I'll give you just a few examples here very quickly. Certainly from a global level, this continues to happen and these people continue to meet. But on September 22nd and 23rd of this year, 2024, there is going to be, it says this, and this is from globalresearch.ca. It says in less than 2 weeks, the United Nations will present during a special session, again, the 22nd and 23rd of September, at their 2024 UN annual meeting in New York, the world of the future, quote unquote. It is a fully digitized world. For the UN AG meeting, a quote package of global digitization was prepared by the governments of Germany and Namibia, of course with the help of big tech and big finance. It says this digital enslavement package will be adopted under almost complete exclusion of the public, of people like you and me. It says most parliaments and governments worldwide have apparently already agreed to it, so the presentation and the so-called discussion during a UN annual conference is a sheer fig leaf, a mere farce. It says this is the new rules-based quote-unquote way of forcing the entire population into a compact of the digital straitjacket, escaping from which is almost impossible. It says people nowhere have been consulted or even informed. Governments worldwide were forced by the unnamed powers that be to accept a complete digitization of our future, what the WEF calls the Fourth Industrial Revolution. And again, they go through it in the article. It's a rather long article, but you get the gist of it. Point being is that the bad guys at the global level aren't stopping. With that said, the same is true with individuals at the local level. And the same is true, of course, at the state level as well. So I want to use Springfield, Ohio as an example here. I've got a video to play here in a minute, and you'll hear the audio from that, but I have a couple of posts that I also want to read as well. And this was one that was making the rounds the other day, and someone put this on the Chan boards. And this was dated September 13th of this year, 2024, and here's what it said. It said, quote, "I'm in Springfield. They're not contributing as there's no employment base here. Jobs are GFS of McGregor. They're firing Americans to hire on Haitians that work cheaper. The vast majority of the Haitians are living only on the $500 to $1,500 a month they get from the beanies the government give them. Every single Haitian woman is pregnant." That was all in bold text. "They're going to be dropping anchor babies left and right to not get sent back." It says our hospital has, there's a couple of typos throughout this, so forgive them, but it says our hospital has an over 800% increase in HIV/AIDS cases and a 500% increase in tuberculosis. There are serious car wrecks every single day, and as the Haitians are driving without license or insurance, there's no recourse. And even if the police arrest them, the court is so overburdened that the courts are just releasing them, it says. "Because of all of the car wrecks, my insurance man tells me the car insurance here is about to triple in price. Housing has gone to be insane, where certain landlords can get $500 per Haitian so they fill a 2-bedroom house with 10 or more Haitians, or they can get $5,000 a month for Haitians versus the more standard $650 a month for an American family. Then there's the houses for sale. Little old cracker shacks have gone from selling around $30,000 to $200,000 for the premium of the housing shortage crisis." It says women cannot go out shopping by themselves, go to Myers or Walmart, and groups of Haitian men are wandering around and following women in the stores and out in the parking lots. Women are scared. Sheriff's deputy told me that retail thefts are up 15,000% from 4 years ago. Again, even if the police arrest the Haitians, the courts let them go. Springfield has had its problems, but this has destroyed the city. I'm calling a realtor on Monday, unquote. No reason to doubt it. In fact, give this woman a listen. There was an independent journalist who approached this woman who apparently lives on a farm or certainly on a large piece of land here, and her home is next to the road, but you can see some pastures of fields behind her. And he starts asking her questions about the situation in Haitians, and she describes what she personally has experienced and what she has seen. So give her a listen here in 3, 2, 1.
"We've been here since April of 2024.
Okay. And then you were telling me earlier off camera about your experience with, obviously, you have a lot of geese and ducks and livestock out here, and there's horses just over in the other pasture. So what has your experience been?
We had a set of Haitians that showed up in the driveway, pulled in, laying on the horn. "Hi, baby." And they were demanding to rent a chicken.
They wanted to rent a chicken. So how was that interaction? How did that go down?
When you try to explain to them that the chicken wasn't for sale because apparently it was for a little girl's birthday tradition, which I wasn't buying. So it just told them it wasn't for sale. They got very angry, very agitated that we would not sell them a chicken, started demanding the chicken. It took my husband to run them off for them to leave.
Okay, and how long were they sitting out here on your property demanding that you give them a chicken?
Probably about 15 to 20 minutes.
And then your husband
in
had
a
to come out?
thunderstorm. Yes. There's a carry out down here, and they live up this way. So they were walking down the street, dipped under the fence, chasing my little duckies here. And I found them, yelled at them, screamed at them. They left.
So they were chasing your ducks on your property?
They were chasing our ducks on the property.
In broad daylight?
In broad daylight.
And then they came back?
I don't think they were after the horses, so...
Then they came back, tried to rent a chicken.
It was a different incident. The chicken was one incident. The ducks were another.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you had any other weird experiences out here?
We don't shop at Walmart because they literally will shove you around, especially me. I'm not a very big woman. They like to just kind of push me around. They'll eat chips in the aisleway, sit them down, keep walking. they just don't conduct themselves in a civil manner.
Yeah. Well, and you said you were from Louisiana and you have a lot of experience with, the Haitian population and things like that. But what do you think their intention was, if you can speak on it, of them coming and trying to rent a duck in the middle of the night?
I can tell you that there are some ritualistic practices that are involving poultry. It's not usually a spoken thing. It's a voodoo thing, or I'm not sure exactly what they call it down there, but they do use animals as ritual sacrifices or in different ways. So, as soon as they said it was a traditional thing, I was like, yeah, you're not getting my chicken. These are our pets. They're not farm animals. They're our pets. They're my husband's pets, and they're beloved pets. So we're not letting anybody take them, more or less someone that is going to bring it back the next day. Yeah, no.
Ah, yes, that long lost art of chicken renting and having foreigners knock on your door in a thunderstorm to rent chickens. If I had a quarter every time that's happened to me, I'd have 0 quarters. Okay. Here's the aspect of this that a lot of people are discussing online, and certainly within some of the boards that I pay attention to and am a part of. But there's also, of course, this aspect too, which has to do with Governor DeWine. I'm not sure which one of these to bring up first, but I'm just going to mention this, I guess. One of the discussions that's happening online with some regularity is people are throwing out theories as to what is going to happen with these foreigners. All of them, regardless of where they come from, including their anchor babies, and a number of other things. There are people who believe that if you remove the quote-unquote bad ones first, which again, there's 0 indication that there are differing, moral attitudes among the illegals who are coming here. The fact is that regardless of their attitude, or where they come from, or what their intent is, there is no vetting of any of that can possibly be done. No one's going to sit these individuals down at a table and say, okay, so Consuela, what is your take on America, and what exactly would you like to do here? And then they ask somebody else, and then, they ask them a similar question or similar questions. And then they basically just have 2 separate lines. They have a criminal line of people we can't trust, and then a line of individuals that we should let in because they seem well-intended and they don't seem like they're going to harm anybody. That cannot happen. It's completely impossible that such a thing would happen. But one of the theories that's bouncing around is that if the so-called bad ones, quote unquote, are removed first, again, I don't know who makes that decision, and it's completely implausible that it would happen, but if the bad ones are removed first, of the 40 some odd million that are potentially in our country illegally, then the rest who are here illegally will just go home, willfully. They will self-deport, quote unquote, because all of their perks and government subsidies and whatever you want to call them, that all of those things will just end up going away. And once all of those things go away, that those illegals who are here will just say, well, I guess I should just go back home then. And then they'll just pack up their shit and cross the border. No. That is not going to happen. When you back these individuals up against a wall or into a corner, and they know full well that the government, i.e. military, National Guard, what have you, immediately has orders to come after these people and round them up and remove them, these people are going to fight to stay. There isn't going to be any of this willful deportation or self-deportation that takes place. And I have to tell you, anybody saying that or even implying that is foolish. These people are going to kill to stay here. Even if that means finding their way into an American jail because they have literally killed someone to stay here, knowing full well, of course, lots of these illegals are killing people and they're never going to jail. This is also happening. But for people to believe that the right thing will just happen and their conscience will kick in because all of their perks and all of the things that they've gotten for free will all of a sudden dry up and disappear, that these people will not become violent and then just self-deport themselves. It's beyond laughable to expect such a thing. It isn't going to happen. These people will dig in. They will take over a particular piece of property. They will weaponize themselves any way that they can. They will steal. They will engage in more crime than they already are. They will do whatever they have to do to stay. And like I said a minute ago, they'll do it just to go to, potentially, an American jail for X amount of years. Because then they'll have clothes. They'll have a roof over their head, 3 meals a day, all on the taxpayer dime. It's incredible. And this is continuing to happen. And this, again, is going to happen. I mean, this is going to be the future scenario in all of this. I have no doubt about it. The question becomes then, are we going to see a civil war from a federal military standpoint right down to state government? Because there are state governments, state governors, city councils, mayors, etc., that are putting up roadblocks to keep these individuals from being, of course, deported and detained. You've heard me bring this up before, and you know this. I mean, Greg Abbott and Ron DeSantis, along with other governors, have just been human trafficking this entire time. It's not a right-left issue. It's a criminal, non-criminal issue. The non-criminals aren't doing this. The criminal politicians, they certainly are. And of course, here in Ohio, Mike DeWine has just moved approximately $2.5 million, like that's going to help anything, to the city of Springfield, Ohio, in Clark County, Ohio, to not help local law enforcement. That's not it. It's also not to gather these individuals up and get rid of them and send them back to where they came. That's not it either. This is being done, and that money is being spent to actually help these Haitians and help these illegals. Quote unquote help. However you want to interpret that so-called help. So here's part of that so-called plan, or that so-called help, that apparently Governor DeWine thinks is actually going to be a thing. This is brief. Just give me a second to read this here. It says, Governor DeWine announces healthcare public safety support for Springfield and Clark County. It says, Ohio Department of Health to expand primary health services. Ohio State Highway Patrol to support traffic enforcement. This isn't going to help anything. This is kicking the can down the road, and the mere presence that they're moving money, state money, toward these illegals in Clark County, in Springfield, should tell everybody that these individuals are culpable in this illegality. This is from Columbus, Ohio. It says, Ohio Governor Mike DeWine today announced new state support for the city of Springfield, which is dealing with significant stress on its healthcare and public safety system due to the influx of thousands of Haitian migrants over the last several years. Quote, I want the people of Springfield and Clark County to know that we are moving forward, that as we move forward, we will continue to do everything we can to help the community deal with this surge of migrants, said Governor DeWine. Quote, the federal government has not demonstrated that they have any kind of plan to deal with this issue. We will not walk away, unquote. He's an asshole. He's just an asshole. The nerve of him to say, well, the federal government isn't helping us, so we're going to give them $2.5 million. That's not helping anything. Get rid of them. Round them up, use the National Guard, and get rid of them. They shouldn't be here, but you allowed them to come here. It says the influx of Haitians to Springfield and Clark County has significantly impacted local primary care providers, due to the increased number of patients and the need for more translation services. Right. They don't speak their language because they don't belong here. It says, in general, migrants from Haiti have had little to no healthcare services prior to arriving in the United States, including vaccinations. Jesus Christ. Well, yeah. You know what? Give them as many COVID shots as possible, I suppose. It's not going to help anything, certainly not the shedding. In fact, don't give them COVID shots because we don't want to be shed on. So, stay away from them altogether is usually the rule of thumb here. Unfortunately, it goes on, Governor DeWine announced today that he's dedicating $2.5 million toward expanding primary care access for everyone living in Springfield. Bullshit. It's not everyone, it's just going to be illegals. Governor DeWine has directed the Ohio Department of Health to work with the Clark County Health Department and other healthcare providers on this effort, he says, to address the increase in dangerous driving in Springfield. No, it's illegal driving by inexperienced Haitian drivers. No, it's illegal Haitian drivers. They're inexperienced and potentially dangerous. Their word usage is amazing. It says, in all others who disregard traffic laws, Governor DeWine directed the Ohio State Highway Patrol, OSHP, to support the Springfield Police Department with traffic enforcement beginning tomorrow morning. OHSP troopers will patrol local roads with the highest crash rates and hold accountable any driver who drives erratically and risks the safety of others. For the love of God. These two initiatives add to other support that the state has already provided to Springfield to aid in addressing the increase in the area's Haitian population, including, and there are 6 bullet points, creating a school-based health clinic in the Springfield City School District to expand primary care access for school children and their parents throughout the community. Ladies and gentlemen, if you needed another reason to not send your children to brick-and-mortar schools, please allow this to be yet another reason. That was just point number 1. 2, increasing support for vaccinations and health screenings through the local health department. Honest to God, it's not going to help anything. It will make them sick and kill them, which I'll let you decide whether or not that's a decent idea or not. However, from a healthcare burden standpoint, that's not going to help anything. In fact, like I said earlier, it's just going to make things worse from a shedding standpoint. In particular, if these individuals are around one another and/or Native Americans, actual law-abiding citizens of our country. The third one, allocating additional funds to the Clark County Department of Job and Family Services for translation services. Jesus. Can you imagine? Imagine wanting to translate for these subhumans? I mean, I can't think of a more dangerous job. It says providing funding to Clark State College for services to teach English to Haitians. There you go. The collapse of the education system at hand, ladies and gentlemen. I wrote about this at least 2 years ago. I said this right here on my Substack channel is going to be the collapse. You cannot sustain this kind of illegality of illegals on the education system because the education system is having a next to impossible time functioning for Americans who can speak English, let alone illegals who can't. It says providing driving simulators and offering driver education classes targeted to the Haitian community. Fucking video games. Video games. Driver simulations. What? What is happening here? Oh, don't worry, Sean. They'll self-deport. They'll self-deport when men in fatigues with rifles are trying to detain them in handcuffs and throw them into the back of a paddy wagon. They'll just self-deport. Bullshit. These men and women are going to fight back. They're already sharpening sticks in the woods. They're already probably buying knives at the grocery store and using them, of course, on cats and chickens and God knows what else, each other. But they're going to start using them against Americans, and they're certainly going to attempt to use them against anybody who tries to round these people up in the future. Self-deport my ass. These people are coming for us, 100%. The last one says this: working with the Springfield School District to maximize existing resources and provide ongoing support to deal with the surge of migrant students. Please, please get out of the American education system now. Please get out. Please. The dummies who are running this system cannot manage this. They can't manage the thing that they're supposed to manage normally, under normal circumstances, with legal Americans, let alone something like this. I'm telling you, in the near future here, if it hasn't already happened, and certainly if it has, it's not like we're going to hear about it, unless it, of course, happens and it's witnessed on social media and it's taped, and citizens who are there get the story out in full and bypass the mainstream media to again give it to alternative media and those of us out here who are trying to bring the truth to people. But you're going to have illegal aliens of student age killing Americans in school or around school simply because they are illegals and killing other people who are not them is rather normal, apparently. Just because. In fact, years ago, I was describing a particular scenario, and I remember the video because it's not one of these videos that you can just wipe from your brain. But it was video footage of an African, could have been a Haitian, who knows, can't tell the difference, but again, doesn't matter. They were clearly not a legal American, and they were in this school, potentially as a student, because it's not illegal to be, in fact, it's the actual law to allow illegal aliens to be in American schools. That should be a huge problem, and that should be reversed by the Supreme Court. That's another issue, but either way, this very tall African and or Haitian was walking down a hallway of what was clearly a high school behind an Asian student who was just, again, walking to class. This was clearly as class was going on. But he walks up behind him either with scissors or a pencil in his hand. I believe it was scissors. And he attempts to stab the kid in the back of the head with the scissors. And then the kid, again, grabs him and kind of moves him around, and the dude turns around and he goes after him again with the scissors just to flat out kill this kid. And then, again, all of this is being filmed. And then eventually somebody gets on top of him, and a teacher ends up detaining the African/Haitian with the scissors, and somebody pulls the scissors out of his hands and whatever. And the kid is bleeding a little bit, who did get stabbed to some extent, but he was okay. He was just angry and bleeding. So this has already happened. It's not like it's a new thing. But it's not making the nightly news. I mean, you're not going to see Lester Holt on NBC, in the evening describing a story like this. But this is what awaits these environments. And there are no safety measures in place because, they don't want to come off as sounding racist. They don't want to come off as sounding bigoted. Name calling, we can't have that. We need to be inclusive and diverse, even when it comes to how we all die inside of a school. Some of us think we're going to get shot by a white kid with an AR, but no, let's be diverse and equitable and inclusive, and let's let a Haitian stab us in the back of the head with a pair of scissors that they stole from the teacher down the hallway. This is the state of affairs. It can't get more obvious. I don't know what people are sitting around waiting for. Honest to God, ladies and gentlemen, the time has come. In fact, the ship has sailed and the die has already been cast here. You would think that more people would be pulling their children out of these environments just because of the even potential for something like this to happen. But see, everybody thinks they're fine, and it's never going to happen to my kid, they always say. Well, that's not going to happen to my kid, and that won't happen, and that won't happen. Let me give you another story, very similar. Previous guest on the show, who was a school teacher in a southern state, which I won't mention for the purposes of anonymity. But they were a guest on the show a few months back, and they were openly discussing again the influx of illegal aliens, where they teach and where they live. They were texting me this past week as the illegal aliens, of course, are increasing in number in the major city or around the major city where they teach. And there are numerous threats that are being sent to these particular schools, including pictures of former students who are, at least what it appears to be, either trespassing or engaging in some kind of other illegality on other pieces of property, as again former students, but the schools where they previously attended are becoming more and more empty because of these threats that people are calling in and or emailing and or moving around social media. And they were texting me late last week, I think it was Friday, and they openly said our school is dead empty. It's practically empty right now. The hallways are empty, the classrooms are empty. Most of the students stayed home because there was a threat that there might be a violent attack on our campus, or within the walls of our building, or what have you. And there you go. I mean, this kind of stuff is ramping up. I'm not saying again that all of these phone calls get made from CIA, FBI, ATF to stir the pot. Certainly a great deal of them do, and a lot of these school-related threats do. But at the exact same time, some of them are legit. Some of them are from parents or people who recognize a particular picture of a certain individual that they, again, recognize as either being a current student or a former student, and they say, okay, what's going on in this picture? What's going on in this video? What are they doing? Are they affiliated with this school? If they are, shouldn't the school find out? Shouldn't everybody who attends the school find out? And then everybody's just, again, being yanked around, the social engineering, high blood pressure, panic of the entire thing, of the entire environment, whereas if they were just not involved in the school district, certainly as parents sending their children to these environments, it wouldn't impact them in the slightest. They might hear about it, but it still wouldn't impact them. It just continues to shock me that people continue, after all of this evidence, after all of this face value evidence, continue to send their children to these environments. It absolutely blows me away. I have numerous other examples, by the way, now that I'm in the education portion of the show. But I have other examples that will prove this point also, including in just a few minutes, an Ohio House bill that actually has to do with, which is good, but it seeks to criminalize and hold legally accountable teachers and librarians for the kind of course, pornographic books that they allow within their environments. Again, you would think that having such legislation on the books would be an indicator that maybe you shouldn't send your children to such environments, let alone the school districts that openly come out opposed to such legislation. And basically saying, well, we disagree with these state politicians and we should be allowed to have whatever pornographic books we want wherever we want them. I mean, hello? They're saying that they're basically pornographers. They're telling you that they're interested in keeping such books and they don't want to be held to account legally. It's kind of a red flag, is it not? But let me start with this very quickly. The Georgia school shooter, quote-unquote, Colt Gray, according to the sheriff who was there, based on local news outlet reporting in his office as he's talking about the scenario, he actually admitted, again, if it's to be believed, even though we have no security footage of the situation, but the story is that Colt brought this Bushmaster AR gun into the building in his backpack, and the gun was sticking out of the top of his backpack. So approximately it would have to be at least half of the gun was sticking out of the top of his backpack, but according to the sheriff, it was wrapped up like it was a school project of some kind. So people couldn't see that it was a gun, but you have this thing sticking out of a person's backpack that, according to the sheriff, appeared to look like a school project on what would have been and what was the third day of school. So again, what school project gets brought to school on the third day of school that is so large that it's sticking out of someone's backpack? And no one is suspicious of this. He's walking past individuals. They're not thinking anything of it. He claims that he went to the bathroom and dropped his book bag off in the bathroom, went to class, sat down, asked to go to the bathroom, left to go to the bathroom, grabbed the gun out of his backpack in the bathroom, and then again proceeded to shoot people. I mean, does no one in that building have any powers of observation whatsoever? This is the problem with these environments also. They're not observant people. They aren't paying attention to their surroundings. It really is one of only two responsibilities that a school employee has. And it really is just two: safety, and then teaching them factual information. And then, of course, the more difficult aspect of all of that for everybody, apparently, which is holding them accountable for when they don't do either of those things. So, what now? Again, we haven't seen any security footage of this yet, but based on even the neighbor's account, the neighbor claimed that this was the first time that she ever saw Colt Gray get on the bus across the street at what appeared to be his dad's house, if that was in fact his dad's house, and get on the bus again with a backpack. And she said he just had a backpack. I didn't see anything else in his hands or anything. Again, getting on a bus with a giant thing sticking out of your backpack and nobody even asks a question. What's in the backpack? What's that giant thing sticking out of your backpack that seems wrapped up? It's a school project. Is it? Let's check that real quick. Let's just at least grab onto it and see how hard it is. And then, of course, see whether or not it is the thing you say it is. These are not observant people. These are not bright environments. You're not going to find the sharpest knives in the drawer in these environments. It's just the way that it is. Again, how much more unsafe does it have to be for people? Wake the hell up. I'm serious. And let me mention this too, just very briefly. Tuesday evening, I am set to be on the show, Quite Frankly, with Frank. That's, of course, on YouTube and Rumble and a number of other places live streaming. And his show, I believe, starts at 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And again, the guest usually appears around 7:30. So I'm set to be on his show at that particular time. And, of course, we're going to be talking about a lot of the things that I bring up here. Certainly, I bet Springfield will be brought up and a number of other things. But technology use within these environments is going to be something that is going to be brought up also. And I don't want to get too much into it, although you've heard me bring this up on the show here before, but it might be semi-new to his audience, although potentially not. But either way, the business of cell phone usage and that slippery slope and what that has led to, of course, has created massive problems in the entire environment of these schools, so much so that they've gone from, over the course of the last 20 years, not allowing them to be used, to then allowing them to be used, to then now reverting back to not allowing them to be used. That shift and that up and down application or removal of these particular technological devices within school environments is being done for a variety of reasons. And I have no doubt that in this giant equation of technology in school and cell phones in school, that banning them is also being used in an effort to keep illegality from being witnessed within these environments, certainly at the hands of illegals toward legal citizens who happen to also be attending these environments. And that's just a piece of the puzzle. So again, if you're interested in watching me on his show, I will be on his show, as far as I know, on Tuesday evening this week. So, feel free and bounce over to his channel and give that a watch if you're interested. But we're going to bring up a number of different things. And of course, the technology piece is going to be one of them. But anyway, with that said, there is also this, and this is the House bill that I was discussing earlier. Now, let me mention this too when it comes to these House bills that have to do with education. And it's something also that even city councils engage in because, again, they attempt to be holier than thou, and they think, again, that their shit doesn't stink, and every motion that they make or every vote that they make that has nothing to do with them is somehow still, them taking a stance against injustice, quote unquote. So what they'll sometimes do is school boards and even city councils will make a motion to take a vote on the approval of a state law, or even a state bill, which of course is a proposed law, even though, again, them making the motion on it and them taking a vote is irrelevant. It has no weight or bearing on the situation whatsoever. They think that it does, but it doesn't. And then, of course, they use that as an excuse to show up to the state house and protest particular things and whine to everybody and say, this is unfair and we can't do this, or you need to do this instead, and whatever else. So, as of right now, and this is apparently still in the subcommittee or in one of the committees associated with the Ohio House of Representatives, this is HB, House Bill, number 556. And there have already again been school boards who have taken votes saying that we completely disagree with this and we will never make this, the standard procedure in our school district. Even though if it becomes law, regardless of the vote that local school boards take, they don't have a choice. If it's state law, it's state law, and they have to follow it no matter what. So they can whine and bitch and disagree all they want. It's not going to change anything. So here it is. It says, this is a bill to amend sections 2907.32 and 2907.35 of the revised code to create criminal liability for certain teachers and librarians for the offense of pandering obscenity. Now, me personally, I like this. This should have always been on the books. You would think this is just common sense. And you would also think, as I said earlier, that if a state, I can't believe I'm saying this, that if state lawmakers are having to do this, that this is indicative of an environment that does not need children within it. I could have put that a million other ways, but I think you get what I'm saying. This should be a giant red flag to parents as to basically say, why in the hell are you still sending your children? Your state government is saying that these environments are perverse, pornographic, and sexually groom people. So much so that they now have to make laws and stronger amendments to existing laws to crack down on this kind of behavior and not normalize this kind of behavior. What the hell is wrong with people? Here's what it says. Quote, it says section 2907.32, as used in this section. It says 1, faculty members, quote unquote, means any person who is tasked with providing academic research or teaching at a public or private institution of higher education, as those institutions are defined in section 3365.01 of the revised code. Number 2, Other persons having a proper interest, quote unquote, does not include a teacher who is not a health or biology or a school librarian. This would mean, outside agencies that basically come into school districts and provide so-called instruction to schools. And we know that those outside agencies and school districts in particular love those outside agencies. They love doing that because those agencies come in and provide whatever perverse instruction they want, showing kids, again, how to masturbate and do this and do that. I mean, they do all of those things. Those groups exist. But holding those individuals accountable is a great move because schools invite those groups in so that the school isn't held accountable. So that when parents complain and say, well, Mr. and Miss so-and-so in this classroom who was running this classroom in this school invited this outside group to come in and speak. Did they not know what that group was going to say? The school gets to say something like they were unaware of the instruction at the time and they had no idea that such instruction was going to be given. And again, they basically insulate themselves from any responsibility regarding the perverse or inappropriate instruction that took place. This bill, which is a good thing, seeks to hold those individuals accountable too. So hopefully, there would be no more outsourcing, essentially, of instruction. There shouldn't be outsourcing of instruction anyway. Why even have a teacher? Why even have a school then? Number 3 here, it says school librarian, quote unquote, means a librarian employed by a school district, other public school, as defined in section 3301.0711 of the revised code, or chartered non-public school, and a librarian employed in a school district public library established in accordance with sections 3375.14 to 3375.18 of the revised code. Again, hopefully, this would hold librarians and libraries accountable also, even the ones outside of the school environment. And then it says number 4, teacher, quote unquote, has the same meaning as in section 3319.09 of the revised code includes an individual who has a teacher certification under section 3301.071 of the revised code. It then says, no person with knowledge of the character of the material or performance involved shall do any of the following. Number 1, create, reproduce, or publish any obscene material when the offender knows that the material is to be used for commercial exploitation or will be publicly disseminated or displayed, or when the offender is reckless in that regard. Number 2, promote or advertise for sale, delivery, or dissemination, sell, deliver, publicly disseminate, publicly display, exhibit, present, rent, or provide, or offer or agree to sell, deliver, publicly disseminate, publicly display, exhibit, present, rent, or provide any obscene material. Number 3, create, direct, or produce an obscene performance. Good. When the offender knows that it is to be used for commercial exploitation or will be publicly presented, or when the offender is reckless in that regard. Number 4, advise or promote an obscene performance for presentation or present or participate in presenting an obscene performance when the performance is presented publicly or when admission is charged. Again, there's no doubt that that's being brought up because of not only the drag queen story time stuff, but I can't help but think of that more specific example, and my apologies, I've forgotten her name. There it is. Thanks, brain. Kimberly Reichs. Kimberly Reichs, the gal who was on social media again talking about her school district, and I had a personal conversation with her also regarding a male drag queen who was dressed up like a stripper, who after school on school property, put on by the theater department, engaged in, again, basically a strip club kind of dance on stage in front of the theater students. And that the school was aware of this, and certainly the drama department was, and school employees, and no one said this is a bad idea. Now it would hold all of those individuals accountable, at least this particular bill would, if it became law. this is a good thing. Now, we live in different states, but the point is that, at least I think we live in different states, but the point is that, it's going after those kinds of things also, which again is good. And of course, like I said earlier, the drag queen story hour stuff. Number 5, it says buy, possess or control any obscene material with purpose to violate divisions, and then particular things are scratched out. Number 4 of this section. And then it goes on here, and it says, as introduced this section, that the material or performance involved was disseminated or presented for a bona fide medical, scientific, religious, governmental, judicial, or other proper purpose to a physician, psychologist, sociologist, scientist, health or biology teacher, faculty member person, pursuing bona fide studies or research, librarian other than a school library, member of the clergy, prosecutor, judge, or other person having a proper interest in the material or performance. And then again, it scratches out a few other things here, so I assume they're doing away with that. Section 2907.35, an owner or manager or agent or employee of an owner or manager of a bookstore, newsstand, theater, or other commercial establishment engaged in selling materials or exhibiting performances who, in the course of business, and then there's 2 sections here. It says 1, possesses 5 or more identical or substantially similar obscene articles, having knowledge of their character, is presumed to possess them in violation of division of Section 2907.32 of the Revised Code. And number 2, does any of the acts prohibited by Section 2907.31 or 2907.32 of the Revised Code is presumed to have knowledge of the character of the material or performance involved if the owner, manager, or agent or employees of the owner or manager has actual notice of the nature of such material or performance, whether or not the owner, manager, or agent or employee of the owner or manager has precise knowledge of its contents. Again, this goes on here. I kind of want to finish this just because, well, yeah. I'll tell you what, I'm going to stop it here. I think you get it. There's other sections associated with this. Again, anybody sending anything, anybody receiving anything, anything that is considered obscene or harmful to juveniles, anything that bears the date of such notice, any documentation that just, again, discusses when a particular thing is going to take place or when a particular thing is going to be viewed or read or what have you. These, again, could be book fairs. It could be a number of different things, but this has to do, again, with pornographic material. Now, I understand, again, the slippery slope in this, because there are individuals who would say, well, what constitutes pornographic material? And trust me, these people exist. Where this slides into something, for example, like the Bible or other books, is individuals on the proverbial left might say something like, well, we can't have the Bible in libraries then because there's sex and sacrifice and graphic descriptions of graphic events in that book as well. And then, of course, the question then becomes, well, what's the limit on what kind of book? Can you have books that exist in these libraries that accurately depict the actions of those involved in World War II or World War I or the Civil War or any war for that matter? The Holodomor, for example. Pick a subject. I mean, you can see the left using such a law or a bill and bending it their way in order to keep the truth out of these environments also. So, again, hypothetically, although it's beyond a hypothetical, I think, you can see the debate that would take place regarding this. Where does one draw the line in the sand, so to speak? But either way, I know what they're referring to. And what they're referring to is pornographic material. They're referring to pornographic pictures. They're referring to children having sex with children, all the gay books, all that nonsense. And rightfully so. So again, this is a good thing. But keep an eye out for the local politicians who openly come out and disagree with such a bill. And again, I guarantee that the school boards that I cover on this show, 2 of which happen to exist in the state of Ohio, again, one toward Columbus and one where I live, that they will make some mention of this at some point, if they haven't already. And they may even come out opposed to it and say, well, this is completely ridiculous and we don't like this whatsoever. Well, what they say doesn't really matter. Because if this becomes law, they have to follow it. And if you're foolish enough to still send your children to American schools, this does become yet another arrow in your quiver to go after these schools legally, to hold them accountable if in fact they violate the law, which, let's face it, they will, because they do all the time. So, just wanted to bring that to your attention. This is a thing. This is happening in this state. It's probably happening in others, but there you go. Okay. Let me play this one too. This is out of New Mexico, specifically having to do with the Albuquerque public school system, which is an absolute embarrassment. And again, they're losing money left and right, and they don't know what they're doing. And some might even say it's arguably one of the worst school districts in the nation. Certainly in the 51st state of New Mexico, being the worst, so to speak, when it comes to education, and of course being behind Washington, D.C. at number 50. But this story was sent to me by Cicely, and it has to do with student teachers not being paid by the New Mexico education system, because apparently, at least according to the Albuquerque, New Mexico system or other school districts around there, that when you student teach, they tell you that you're going to be paid through grant money, but that you're also not allowed to have another job. The problem here is that they student taught and they aren't being paid. And even the ones who are done student teaching and were told that they were going to get paid, so I'm sure their contracts stated, or whatever dotted line they signed on, that they were going to get paid, and as it turns out, they haven't been paid. Again, the stupidity is amazing. The simple fact that a student teacher wouldn't be allowed to work anywhere else in order to make money while they're student teaching to be qualified to ultimately become a licensed teacher is absurd. And for government to say, well, you need to focus on what government wants you to do, i.e. school teaching, so much so that we don't think as government you're going to have the ability to focus on anything else, and we don't want you to be distracted with another job where you're making money at the exact same time, or in the evening hours, for example, when your student teaching responsibilities end, and whatever else. So just listen to us and listen to government and trust government, because everything will work out, we promise. Oopsie daisy, looks like it didn't work out too well. So I have some audio to play with this. Give this a listen in 3, 2, 1.
Well, tonight, a great opportunity at a state university is now being overshadowed by plenty of stress. It all comes after student teachers say they haven't seen a dime, and they've been working since the start of the school year. This year-long program is how they get their teacher's license. We all know we need all the teachers we can get here in the state of New Mexico. Our Feliz Romero has been looking into this issue for us. So, Feliz, you spoke with some concerned student teachers earlier today.
Yeah, Trevor, the stress of a job and mounting bills is getting to a lot of students at New Mexico Highlands University. This program pays each teacher resident $35,000 throughout the year. Residents tell me they were expecting their finance to be tight with this budget, but nothing prepared them for this. Imagine going to a job 5 times a week for 40 hours, only to have nothing to show for it.
They're messing with several participants' livelihoods. Many, one had to sell her car to pay her mortgage. Had I known that the university wasn't going to hold up their part of the bargain, I wouldn't have committed to this program.
That's unfortunately how aspiring teachers enrolled at New Mexico Highlands University feel. Student teachers are given 4 stipends from Highlands throughout the school year, but the student teachers say the university missed the deadline on the first paycheck back in August.
I barely managed to get my rent paid if I can't pay it next month, then I will have to leave my housing situation.
Because the money comes from a grant through the New Mexico Public Education Department, they are not allowed to have a second job.
They gave us some guidelines. And if we worked for APS, we had to take a leave of absence.
Participants tell us there have been several emails back and forth from Highlands about the delays in pay.
Errors were made, miscommunication. We did not serve our student teachers as we would like.
We took those concerns to NMHU. They tell us they got the grant money from NMPED back on August 8th, but waited too long to input the data into their system to distribute the stipends on time.
Well, everybody here in the School of Education is absolutely dedicated to supporting and serving our student teachers as they in turn are supporting and serving the students in their classroom.
Now their focus is on getting the student teachers their checks as soon as possible and making sure it doesn't happen again.
I offer my apologies, but you can't pay rent. You can't pay rent with an apology. I understand that. So our focus is right now fixing this in the quickest time frame as possible.
Now, Weatherburn tells me all of the data is in correctly now, and they're just waiting for the stipends to be processed. He also says this will not affect other payments, and the rest of the year should run smoothly. Participants are hoping to get their first check next week. Trevor?
What an absolute screw up. I mean, again, that was New Mexico Highland University that engaged in the major screw up, but at the exact same time, you have state education policy that doesn't allow individuals, again, to have particular jobs while student teaching. Again, the whole thing doesn't make any sense. And even so, I mean, when I student taught, I didn't get paid a dime. People usually, when they student teach, they don't get paid anything. But again, whether this was grant money or the money was coming from somewhere else, either way, it's just the business. I mean, the business does this. Hell, in the local school district where I live, they weren't paying, as I brought up on the show earlier, many episodes ago, they weren't even paying their employees on the correct pay scale. They didn't have them listed on the correct numbered pay scale and paying them what they should have been paying them. Seems like a massive oversight. But again, this is the business. It's unfortunately par for the course. That's just kind of how it goes. So, there you go. Okay. Jab-related things. Just very quickly before I wrap up here. I found this interesting, and again, I have next to zero threshold for listening to this kind of stupidity. But, again, I heard this last week, and my face fell into my hands, and I just thought, you've got to be kidding me. I mean, even at this stage of the game, people are dismissing the very thing that they, of course, participated in, and they want nothing to do with it. I decided to tune in to Alex Jones for a minute to see what he was saying or see who he had on or what the hell was going on. And sure enough, he had on Dr. Drew Pinsky. Now, Dr. Drew went all deep. He was neck deep in over his head when it came to the whole shot rollout and everything associated with that. As he was talking to Alex Jones and running through what he perceives to be the truth regarding the shots and this, that, and the other, I would say that 95% of what he was saying was completely false. He does not know what's going on here. He again, consistently bringing up spike protein this and spike protein that, when in fact, we're really just talking about two separate things. We're talking about the technology that exists inside of these shots, the self-assembling metal particles that exist in these shots. And at the exact same time, we're talking about what that metal does then inside of the body to not only create the blood clots, but all the other poison that's inside of the shots and all the other ill effects that it has on individuals, which, as we know, are endless. I wish I had the soundbite because I'd play it for you, but he quite literally said something like this. I'm paraphrasing him. But he said, nanotech and nanobots and all of that stuff. I'm not going to get into any of that, and I don't know about any of that. But I'm not even going to get into any of that. It just really has to do with this, and this. And he completely dismissed what is at face value beyond provable, that there is self-assembling metal in these shots that can be seen on microscopic cameras from endless individuals who have tested exactly what is in this, and that this is well-known information, and Dr. Drew Pinsky just skips right over it like it doesn't even exist, or that he doesn't even care. So I'm Dr. Drew Pinsky, and I'm just going to talk about what's comfortable to talk about as far as I'm concerned, because, well, if it's not something that I don't understand, then there's no need for me to even bring it up, let alone allude to the fact that it might be real. This is their mind frame. So here's what I'm going to do. Josiah Richwine sent me this clip. It's beyond evident. It's beyond factual. I've been over it on the show numerous times. If anybody's interested in watching this, it's a perfect presentation. This is what a Dr. Drew Pinsky should do, but he's not going to do it because he's jabbed and paid by the Jewish lobby. That's why he's on Sirius XM and makes the rounds with the likes of Megyn Kelly and all these other nitwits. That all he has to do is obtain some vials of these shots, put them on a microscope, zoom in, hit record, and then bring this to the people. But he doesn't even want to believe that this is real. It's undeniable. Dr. Anna Maria Mihalcha, or Mihalcia, my apologies again on her name, she has a video here on her Rumble channel, and it is titled EDTA plus vitamin C, the COVID-19 bioweapon nanotechnology antidote, TSS episode 35. I will link this in the description below, and you can watch this. And again, it is undeniable that this metal is self-assembling, is not natural, is completely manufactured, and has no business belonging inside of the human body. It's about an hour-long presentation, 53 minutes, 50 minutes, somewhere in there. People should watch this. People should pay attention to this, and people should know this. Certainly the likes of Drew Pinsky, who are jabbed himself, if not having jabbed endless other people himself as a so-called doctor. Kind of a big deal. There's also this. You've heard me mention again, and I'll bring this up in conclusion here. You've heard me mention individuals on YouTube. And these YouTube personalities getting sick and having these symptoms, and they don't know why they're fatigued, and they don't know why their legs don't work anymore, and they don't know this and they don't know that. There's a guy that I've watched now for, I would say, probably, I don't know, I want to say maybe roughly a year. His name is Trevor Bauer. And I've watched it periodically because his story was an interesting one when he was a Major League Baseball player in the States. But let me briefly describe his story for you if you're unaware. Trevor Bauer used to play for the Indians, the Cincinnati Reds, and the Dodgers. Not in that order. He may have even played for the Boston Red Sox. I'm not entirely sure. I don't think so, but I could have that wrong. Either way, I think he played for the Reds last, certainly back in 2020 during the fake COVID pandemic, when you had cardboard individuals in the stands and all that other stupid shit. Again, why anybody would go to a baseball game after that actually happened, you're on another planet. It's so insulting that actually existed and that people would still return to baseball or even watch sports for that matter. But anyway, sorry. I digress. As it turns out, Trevor Bauer was falsely accused by a woman for sexually assaulting him. It was an accusation. It turned out to be an accusation that was false, that this woman, again, specifically was making up in an effort to extort him for money. As a result of all of that, Major League Baseball banned him and kicked him out. He was never found guilty in a court of law. He had consensual sex with this woman, and then the woman later again was caught, basically, of being a liar and manufacturing this complete story that he assaulted her and hit her and whatever else. And none of that happened, if not raped her or whatever. It was all proven to not happen. It didn't matter, though, that he was innocent. Major League Baseball, again, the old Me Too movement, they made their ruling and they kicked him out of baseball. He ended up going to Japan and pitching for Japan and doing a very good job, which, by the way, I think he was a Cy Young winner in the major leagues here in the States. Either way, doesn't matter. He was a good pitcher. And now he pitches for, I believe it's the Diablos in Mexico City, Mexico. And I occasionally just kind of bounce around some of the episodes and watch his analysis of him pitching. But in this last episode, again, I don't watch every episode, and I certainly don't watch them in their entirety. They're way too long and not that interesting. But it is interesting to listen to him talk about these now ailments that he allegedly has. And he started to describe how his legs just didn't feel right, that they just didn't have good feeling in them, and they kind of ached and they hurt, and he didn't feel like he had full range of motion in his legs. And of course, he's very quick to blame the altitude that exists there and a number of other things and this, that, and the other. So he describes how he arrived at this very common, and we know what this is and what caused this potentially, but he describes these symptoms, and then he says, I decided to go to, and apparently they're still in their season right now, or in their playoff season, I guess, but he decided to get on a plane and go to, basically fly to Arizona and have a doctor figure out what's going on with him and diagnose his problems. Turns out, according to this doctor, that he is immune compromised and he has Guillain-Barré syndrome. Now, where have we heard those things, and what is associated with those particular conditions? Again, you're talking about a Major League Baseball player who was traveling around the world to play baseball, certainly from the States during the 2020-2021 time into Japan, and then now again back to the States to live, and then, of course, down to Mexico to play baseball yet again. So what is it you think that he's done to himself multiple times that has caused now Guillain-Barré syndrome to exist throughout his body and in his nervous system? He has to be jabbed. He has to be. But it's very sad watching these individuals describe these symptoms openly on YouTube and have no idea that there are endless individuals in society who know exactly what caused the condition that he's describing. You don't just become immunocompromised just 'cause. It doesn't happen. It's because of something that you have done to yourself. Poisoning, drug use, injections specifically, you name it. That's what causes it. It's not altitude. It's not, well, I'm athletic, and now all of a sudden I'm immunocompromised because I've been athletic my whole life. That's not it. It's poisoning. But you can see it in his face that he doesn't know what is actually causing this or what caused this. And you don't get rid of Guillain-Barré syndrome. He can't repair his compromised immune system permanently, his broken DNA, and his damaged central nervous system. Now, he's still pitching, apparently, but the question, of course, becomes for how long? What else might happen? Again, getting on airplanes, flying around all the time. These are not healthy characteristics for the jabbed. They just aren't. And these people, again, they don't know. They have no idea. Now, in standard procedure, as I am, when it comes to people certainly on YouTube, I got in the comments section and I told him, in the comments section of that particular episode where he's describing this, I said, you probably have Guillain-Barré syndrome because you gave yourself the COVID shots. The COVID shots are causing this. This will not get better. This will get worse. Take a look at page number 30 of this particular PDF. And I sent him a link to the PDF, whether it made its way there or not, or got deleted on the way or whatever. I sent him the PDF from Pfizer that was the court released document that is rather famous on the internet of the 9 pages of single-spaced symptoms having to do with what happens when you receive these shots. And Guillain-Barré syndrome is on there, along with, of course, endless other central nervous system ailments, of which are all throughout those 9 plus pages. So again, it's just sad. People don't know that this is what's causing this. This is not like some braggadocious opportunity for them, so they may think. But again, it's you don't go from being athletic to being immunocompromised. It doesn't work that way. There is only one thing causing it: injection. And at this stage of the game, it's not just COVID injection, it's all injection. So just as a quick reminder, no one should be receiving any kind of injection of anything ever again moving forward. The same nanotech poison, Dr. Drew, exists in all of these shots. Just keep that in mind moving forward. It just continues to be sad to watch these people describe these symptoms they have, and they have no idea why they have them. And it came from their own hand and their own decision-making, albeit coercive, and of course brainwashing and a lack of knowledge and a number of other things. But even so, it's very sad. Because again, you can see it in their face and they have no idea why. They're just like, well, I've been diagnosed with this. Now I'm going to make my life about having this, particular condition and feel bad for me. When if you tell them the truth, they'll probably deny it. And then if you show them all of the video evidence and the written evidence, they may still even deny it. So again, at this stage of the game, as I've said before, as this is apparently a potential protocol that is being tested, he might do well to steep regular tobacco, like cigar tobacco, in a cup in tea form and then consume it in order to potentially rid his body of this nanotech that is clearly having a negative impact on his central nervous system. He might want to give regular nicotine a try. Nicotine gum, same kind of thing. Give ivermectin a go. It's rather cheap in Mexico. I personally know individuals, as the guest on this show has openly stated in the past, who lives down south, that they travel to Mexico to obtain cheap ivermectin. Cheaper than what you can get it here in the States and with zero prescription. He might want to give that a try also. But again, they're never going to do this if they don't know why they have the condition they have, let alone know that there's a world out there that doesn't involve sports ball, that actually involves a depopulation agenda. If these people don't know this, they're not going to make it. As it's been said before in numerous memes and on this show and on endless shows, the new definition of literacy is an understanding, not that it's a ability to read and write per se, even though that is literacy. But the new definition of literacy is you understanding the difference between the real world and the matrix, and living in the real world and what that means, and what really goes on in the real world, not in the matrix. That's about it. So again, keep an eye out for these kinds of stories. Keep an eye out for the people, certainly on social media, who are consistently, again, and certainly on YouTube. I mean, it's becoming abundant and more abundant by the day. These individuals, again, having these episodes where they're making money talking about their ailments, and yet what's the one thing they all did? What's that one thing they all have in common? It's astounding to me. But I reach out to them, and I try to help them, and slap them across the face with a little bit of truth. But again, if YouTube is censoring the message, or the moderators of the channel are censoring the message, and it never gets to the actual person saying the thing that they're complaining about, well, then who's really responsible for killing the individual and making the individual ill? It's not me. It's the people around them. And it's certainly big tech. There's no doubt about that either. So with that said, ladies and gentlemen, as always, thank you for listening. I appreciate it. Check out the Dr. Maria Mihalcha video in the description below if you are interested. And I will catch you on Wednesday. And then again, I plan on being on, quite frankly, on Tuesday night. If you're interested in checking that out, by all means, feel free. With that said, again, I'll catch you either on Tuesday or Wednesday. Peace.
Thank you for listening to American Education FM. Make sure and check out AmericanEducationFM.com for more information. Take care and God bless.